Yes.
Oh, yeah.
First, good morning. I'd like to say good morning. My name is Elaine Braithwaite. I am the interim city librarian with Bridgeport Public Library, and I'm so pleased to welcome all of you here to our community leaders breakfast, celebrating the opening of our East Side branch library. And when I came, we had just started. This was like literally a hole in the wall, very dark and damp and everything, and it's just amazing to see the transformation. But what has really amazed me more is the excitement of the community as we transform this library. The excitement, people coming in. Just to give you one story, there was a gentleman that came in one day and he whipped out a debit card and said, "I want to donate." And we thought, well, we're not equipped to accept money. Then he found $40 in his wallet and actually gave it to us. He said he lived in Milford, but I'm pretty sure, he probably grew up in this neighborhood that had some ties to it. So that's just to give you an example, I think, of how excited the community is to have this library. And with that, I would like to call up John Schultes, our assistant city librarian, who actually is
Old East Side,
oldie
right?
of this neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. Before Jim is actually going to officially open this, but Elaine gave me the privilege of speaking. This is just such a great thing for the neighborhood. I lived in this neighborhood for the first 50 years of my life. The first library I ever went to was around the corner on Jane Street. First library I ever worked at was around the corner on Jane Street. And this area has been without a full-service library for far too long. And I am getting emails and Facebook posts from people I grew up with that I haven't seen in more years than I'd like to count. And they're just so pleased to see the old neighborhood getting this beautiful library and what we knew as the Watson's Appliance Store building. And you wanted a washing machine, this is where you came. But this is just a wonderful thing, and I just can't tell you how pleased I am to see my old neighborhood finally getting treated the way it should. And with that, I'd like to introduce our library board president, Jim O'Donnell.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you for being in your library. Bienvenida a su biblioteca. I'd like to just hand off. I'm just the person who's going to hand off this morning because we have many other people here that are more responsible for making this happen. I'd like to recognize them first and then ask them if they'd come up and say a few words. First and foremost, Senator Marilyn Moore, who because of her involvement with the libraries, what you see now is just the beginning. Because of her work as chair of the bonding commission, we've secured a grant that will enable us to put an elevator over where that bookcase stands behind the Mary Green and open up the second floor to double the space that you see here right now. But thank you, Senator.
So, thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I used to cruise down East Main Street in the 60s where my friends lived further down. And I remember all the great stores, the furniture stores, Schneider Shoes, and all the things that were up and down East Main Street. I believe in equity, and I stand on equity, I stand on family. I believe everybody should have access to the same things. And so for this gem to be put here, it deserves here, and it should be here. And we should have neighborhood schools where people can go to and access information, but we really need to have libraries because they're changing on, I just look around at some of the books. The libraries of today are not the same libraries that I went to, right? And if it were not for, I want to be sure I mention Andre Baker, Representative Baker, because Andre Baker had put in for the money several times and didn't get the bonding. But I tell you, I believe in a ram in the bush, and I'm that ram. So I got appointed to bonding in April of 2018. I really got appointed because of something else that happened. It was like this domino effect. This happens, another door opens, you go in. And I got to sit on bonding, and I went to Andre, because I got to tell you, I didn't know a lot about bonding. A lot of people don't know. I didn't know how to get the bonding. I know that you can just ask, but I didn't know the process. Andre said, I said, Andre, do you have a project you want to get done? He said, I want to get the libraries. He had like 2 projects. I said, let me take them and I'll get the money for you. He said, oh, I've been trying. I said, I'll get it. I'll get it. Sit down at the table and said, negotiating different projects. And they said, Senator Moore, what do you have? I said, oh, I have the libraries. It's a high priority. I've got to get this. I've got to take this back to Bridgeport. This is not my district, but it's good for Bridgeport. It's not about what district. And I was able to get the bonding for this and even to get started helping with the one that's going to be further up East Main Street. These are really important to our community. They're really important to our families. I think that if there was anything I could have asked for and I didn't know what to ask for, I think God told me to do this for you all. Because so many people are going to benefit from this being here. So I want to thank you and the library board and developer for doing this. Ashlar, isn't it? I want to thank him because he's a visionary. I mean, you take a space that never looked anything like this, and you turn it into this, and it's so welcoming, lights coming in, so many beautiful books, and a place for the kids to sit and computers. It's wonderful. So it takes a vision to do that. I thank you for your vision, and I thank the board and the members of the staff for this place. And let's keep it looking beautiful. Let's encourage our children to come here. It's warm in here, right? Somebody said, no, it's cold outside, but it's warm in here. So thank you. Thank you.
After hearing the senator talk about, I have a confession to make. I moved next door to the house my wife grew up in. But I'm a transplant, and the reason I'm involved with the library is I've shown a couple of pictures to people, and I'll show it again. It was a little storefront library that used to be a hardware store, and I would not be standing here today if it weren't for that library. So I'm so happy that we're able to restore this to the community. And I wanted to recognize our council president, Ivy Nieves, if she'd come up and say a few words. Ivy is actually the inspiration behind this. Before she was on the council, she was the president of the local NRZ, and we talked then about the needs that the community had to restore a first-class facility for the library. And thanks to your inspiration, Senator Moore's work, we're going to make that happen upstairs.
Who's here with us, Rosalie Roman Christie, who was previously on the library board, and Martha Smith, who's also a councilwoman. So, as Jim said, my vision for the library was we need to repurpose some space, and the library on East Main Street, on Boston Avenue, East Main Street, my sisters and my son used to utilize it. So when I heard that it was closing, I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Because I used to go to the library on Jane Street. And that's where the librarian gave me Little Women. My girlfriends were hanging out doing other things at the library board, but I was actually reading books, so she passed me. She was like, you like to read, here, read this book. So the library was always a safe space for me to be in the neighborhood. It was somewhere where I could go and just hang out and know that there was going to be great things happening, and I like to read. So I think the library is very important. And one of the things that I learned about the East Main Street Library when we were in Boston, I mean, it was the second highest utilized library in the city. So that meant that the neighborhood really used it. It was constantly full. I think my son still owes the library. I know my mom, we used to rent videos, and it was just a lot of different things happening at the library and events. And it's really a staple and a safe place. And as people walk by on East Main Street, they're excited about it, and I'm excited about it. My dream for the final half of the library is to put a rooftop garden, so eventually we can get some funding to do that and repurpose it, which I think would be a beautiful asset. And the reason why I wanted this corner, and I dreamt about this corner, is because I figure if you have a positive thing on East Main Street, it's going to change the whole landscape of East Main Street, and people, it will bring that positive energy back that we need, that East Main has always had. And it's a hustling and bustling place, so why not have a library where kids can feel safe, where parents can come with their children. So that was my dream, and I'm thankful that Jim believed in it, and we had that conversation, and we just went forward for it. So Maryland, the state reps, the city of Bridgeport, who helped support this, and the library, who continue to believe that this building could happen. And look at this amazing space. It's bright. I mean, it's beautiful when you walk by. And I used to shop here, so now I'll be here even more. Only a block away, so I'll be driving by. So this is my other favorite space.
And your fines are forgiven for this month only.
I'll tell my son to find the library. Thank you again, and
No, this is really exciting for me as well, because again, I too visited the Jane Street Library. Her book was Little Women, you said? Well, mine was Nancy Drew. Every week I was there picking up those books. I loved this so much that I have a whole set of Nancy Drew mystery books at home. And, you know, I want my daughter to take them to school.
Though, right?
No, it's mine. It's mine. Well, and the other exciting thing is, I know that the library up the street, when it was there, it was one of the most well attended. A lot of people will go there, and the children. So that's great news. So I could imagine here, as I drive through, I've been peeking in, and I see children inside with parents, and I think that is awesome. The other thing I want to add is that my daughter, again, I don't know where, but I'm glad, she is the first female Puerto Rican librarian for the city of Bridgeport Board of Education. She's a librarian at Park City Magnet, and I am very proud. So now she has a place to come out and hang out as well. Congratulations, and I thank you for keeping that dream alive, and for those responsible in getting the funding for this beautiful library. I want to thank you, and let's get this going and build up some more. Thank you.
I also want to recognize our mayor who just arrived. Mayor, just come up and
continuing with this, with our state delegation, with our city council, with the library board, and the vision that the board has demonstrated, the determination, the leadership, the new leadership, and you know, Ivy said some really important things that reminded me of not just her personal involvement and commitment to this branch of the library in the city, but libraries as a whole. And you know, we're always talking about education, which is so critical for young people. But libraries provide even that opportunity for the continuation for us as kind of old people. Not you, me, for us.
I got a few years on you, Joe. But safe havens, a part of a neighborhood, a place to understand the dynamics of what a book is, and now with the changing world of the access to the internet. You know, it's funny. I had this interesting conversation with my youngest son a few years ago, and I didn't really know what to make of it. But it brought me into, I guess at that time it was 2014, 15, or 16, but now 2019 or 2020. And it was about writing, and we were trying to teach him script, right? You know, and they had the dotted line in the middle and the 2 lines in the top, and we've all been through it, right? And you know, he was struggling with script, and he slammed it down and he said, "Why do I need to do this?" And I said, "No, wait a minute. Why do I need to learn how to write and all that?" And I realized, and this is kind of where I think, you know, I hear from libraries too. His life is much more this and this, and the elements of what we would do as a notebook and all that. Probably for his children, I hope not, will be a part of the past. But whatever it is, libraries are always going to be the center for that opportunity for understanding, for books, for reading, for computers, and in any way that we as an administration, as a city, I think can continue to embrace that with your leadership. It is well received everywhere as it is in this beautiful branch here in this region. Thank you for what you do. Thank you. I get to stand up here and be the not so pleasant face of the library board, but I should recognize a few of our members who are here today. I know Eric Torres was here. Eric, can you please, our newest member of the board. John Greenberg. And unfortunately, there are a number of other of us that work during the day, so I wish that Judge Bill Holden were here, because he always said it would be one of these situations where if we got these built in his lifetime. The fact that he's not here, don't take it the wrong way. Bill's upright, he's breathing, he's working very hard. He's down at Golden Hill Street right now, so I wish he were here to be able to say a few words. I should say, since we've talked to some of the people of the city, not only the staff, with Elaine, Bernadette's help, Nakia, Jody, Anna, Latara, Hassan, all of the other people who are making this come to life. The building's wonderful, but it's what happens inside that really makes the library a special place. So for everybody who's working here, thank you. A few other people in the city that deserve recognition. You can't hide in the corner all day, Nick. Nick Massiangelo. Max had to get back to work, but Max Perez, Bill Coleman, the other people at the Economic Development Office have been wonderful in helping the library scope out locations in the neighborhoods that are there. I'd like to, if I can, indicate that this is not just a local effort, but we have the blessing of our state librarian, Kendall Wiggins, here with us today, and I wonder, Ken, if you'd come up and share a few words with us, please.
Thank you for inviting me down. These are always wonderful times. Thank you, Senator Moore, for your support of libraries, Mayor Gammon, for your support of the library. The state has a very modest amount of money it puts into library projects, so we think very hard and very carefully about the projects that get funded. But it's intended to be incentive money. Incentive community should really come forward and fund their library. And this is a great example of how that really works well. Every time we open a new library, we open opportunities for individuals. Our libraries serve everyone from toddlers or babies all the way to our most senior citizens. And I'm getting up into that age group, so I appreciate the library. But it's also, it helps for the community as a whole. I mean, this will be a wonderful neighborhood. I understand there's going to be a meeting room here and other opportunities for folks to get together and just talk about ideas and to have that community conversation. Where else can you really have that but in today's library? We're also about not just literacy, but digital literacy. We're about health literacy, financial literacy, all these wonderful opportunities to help people improve their lives. And we're also about digital inclusion. The mayor mentioned the internet. We take it for granted in our state that everybody's connected. Well, they're not, and they may not understand how best to use the internet. And our library staff here can really help people work their way through this massive amount of information that may or may not be true. We don't know. And so the library's job is to help our residents better understand and better get information so they can have better lives. So I congratulate you on this wonderful job. I know we have another project underway in Newfields, and I look forward to coming down for that as well. So thank you.
I'd also like to recognize, and Dawn, forgive me, your last name, Laval? Yeah. Dawn Laval is also with Ken at the State Library, and she is also involved with the State Library Board's consortium. So, Dawn, thank you for all of the help you provide to library boards around the state. One last person I'd like to bring up to say a few words is the fellow who made this space possible, to make it look the way it does. And as a good lead-in and segue from what Ken said about other projects, he needs to speak very briefly because we need to get him back over to Newfield and finish the work over there. But Anthony, could you please come up? Anthony Stewart of Ashlar Construction got involved with the economic development people over at the Civic Block as part of that project, and we got introduced to Anthony at that time. We brought him home because he's from the Newfield area. And before we would let him finish the work over there, we had the problem of losing our lease at Old Mill Green, and Anthony was instrumental in making us able to open this space today. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm really excited about this library, very proud of it. When we started this project, there was a hole in the roof where we're standing right now, and rain was coming down, and there was a big hole in the floor. And they said, Anthony, we only have a few months, we got to make this a library. And that was in like August, September of last year, and here we are. So a few months later, we turned it into a library. I'm very proud of this one. I'm proud of what we're about to do on Newfield and what's going to come in the future. And I thank the library board for the opportunity to do this. Thank you.
So I would like to thank everyone who came this morning and appreciate all of the effort that went into this with the staff to make this possible. February 1st, it turns out, is a fairly significant day in history. In the Irish culture, it's because everybody hears about St. Patrick, but today is St. Bridget's Day, and she's the one who kept everybody honest over there. But other things I found, looking it up at the library, were that today was the day that the Supreme Court of the United States convened for the very first time. It was the day that President Lincoln signed the amendment that became the 13th Amendment and sent it out to be rapidly approved by the states so that all people could be free in the country. It was 95 years later on this day that people started a lunch counter sit-in to perfect what we're still working on. But in looking recently at the library, its actual legal name is the Bridgeport Public Library and Reading Room. A little bit of a mouthful. So we're trying to make it a little bit more palatable as we go forward. But in looking at that, in the original 1881 resolution that created the library board, after the line about creating a public library and reading room, there's another little clause that says, that shall remain forever free. So as we established a free country with the Supreme Court on February 1st, we signed the 13th Amendment to the Constitution on February 1st, and we had the lunch counter sit-ins begin in 1960 on February 1st. On February 1st of 2019, we now have the opportunity to announce that this will remain forever free as well. So welcome to your free East Side Library. You and Elaine, are we ready to do some work?
We're ready to cut the ribbon.
Too, right?
So let's follow us to the front of the
Please, ma'am, come in here
library
and get
and we will
some.
cut the ribbon.
I just want to make a quick announcement. So we have one of our East Main Street commercial vendors right here. Ramirez Restaurant, they're right there. Lolly and her brother. So if you're hungry, you can walk up the street to Ramirez and come back down to the library because you can't eat in the library. You can have lunch there.
Did you get my